Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. As much as we might wish otherwise, sometimes adaptations can't fully capture the depth of the original, and Harry Potter is no exception. The films changed or simply misrepresented many moments. Ginny's character, Quidditch matches, and many other aspects. However, it's worth noting that there are also scenes that turned out even better than in the books. Today I want to share a few such examples with you. Enjoy the video. Number 1. Harry and Dumbledore's apparition. Both in the books and the films, Dumbledore is portrayed as a humble man despite his immense power and position. He is one of the most powerful wizards of all time, standing against Grindelwald and Voldemort. This is why the scenes where he acknowledges his status always appear so intriguing. In Half-Blood Prince, Harry and Dumbledore set off in search of a Horcrux. In the book, they leave the school grounds, but in the film, they apparate straight from the tower. When Harry remarks that it's not exactly a usual place for apparition, Dumbledore elegantly responds, "The headmaster has his privileges." That scene looks wonderful. Number 2, Dobby's liberation. Dobby is a unique character, but his role in the films was significantly shortened due to the high cost of creating house elves. However, his liberation from the Malfoy family in Chamber of Secrets was an important moment in both the book and the movie. The reason this scene works better in the film is the logical execution. To free Dobby, Harry slides a sock into the book, tricking Malfoy. In the book, however, Harry hides a diary in the sock, making Dobby's release more of an accident. What if Malfoy had tossed the sock the other way? Number 3. Harry as the Chosen One. Despite his uniqueness and heavy responsibilities, Harry is just an ordinary teenager with human problems. This is beautifully shown in Half-Blood Prince, when Hermione reminds Harry that Romilda didn't love him as a person, but for his status as the Chosen One. To which Harry replies, "But I am the Chosen One." This small moment shows Harry as a more human character, and for that he gets a light jab from Hermione. It may seem like a minor scene, but it makes him more real and convincing. Number 4. Harry and Hermione's dance. Though this scene wasn't in the books, it became an important one in the films, especially during the moment Harry and Hermione travel without Ron. Their friendship was harmonious, without major fights, unlike their relationship with Ron. It's in this dance scene that we see how they endure difficult moments together without turning into a romantic couple, even though, from the viewer's perspective, they appear very in sync. Number 5. Harry, Umbridge, and the Centaurs. Dolores Umbridge is one of the most colourful and hated characters in the series, perhaps even more so than Voldemort. At the end of Order of the Phoenix, Harry and Hermione lead Umbridge into the forest, where she clashes with centaurs who carry her away. In the book, this moment is described rather simply. Umbridge waves her wand, shouting that she is an important figure in the Ministry of Magic. In the film, this moment became more intense. Umbridge, asking Harry for help, receives the reply from Potter, "Sorry, Professor, I'm not supposed to lie," referencing the punishments with the enchanted quill. It's an elegant and highly ironic moment which became even more expressive in the film. Number 6. The return of Voldemort in the graveyard. One of the most intense and memorable moments in the entire series is Voldemort's return in the Goblet of Fire. In the book, this scene is undeniably dramatic, but it doesn't have the same immediate visceral impact. J.K. Rowling writes, "Voldemort was back, and nothing would ever be the same again." The moment is significant, but the gravity of Voldemort's presence and the sheer horror of his return are somewhat filtered through Harry's perspective. In the film, however, Ralph Fiennes' masterful performance and the brilliant direction bring this moment to life in a way that is even more chilling. The film allows the audience to feel the weight of Voldemort's return in their bones, amplifying the fear and anticipation. The cinematic version of Voldemort's emergence is terrifying. The dark surroundings, the eerie atmosphere, and Fiennes' unsettling portrayal create a sense of foreboding that is almost tangible. One of the most chilling moments comes when Voldemort touches Harry's face and coldly says, "Now I can touch you." In the book, the moment is disturbing, but in the film, it sends shivers down the spine. Fiennes' delivery of this line, paired with the visual intensity of the scene, makes it feel like a physical threat. The tension is palpable, and the viewer can almost feel the danger looming, as if the Dark Lord's power is extending beyond the screen. The film takes what is already a frightening moment in the book and transforms it into a deeply unsettling, unforgettable experience. Number 7. The duel between Snape and McGonagall. In the book, the Battle of Hogwarts is described with sweeping detail, with the chaos and intensity of the fight vividly portrayed. However, the film takes this battle and adds another layer of visual and emotional depth, particularly in the duel between Severus Snape and Professor McGonagall in Deathly Hallows, Part 2. The moment when McGonagall, with fierce determination, declares, "I've always wanted to do this spell," and then unleashes a powerful spell against Snape, is a standout. The sheer force of her magic, paired with her defiance, creates an unforgettable image. This exchange, filled with personal history and raw emotion, stands out far more in the film than it does in the book. In the novel, this duel is relatively brief, and while it's a key moment, it doesn't have the same emotional resonance. McGonagall's actions are described simply: she raised her wand and sent a spell towards Snape. The tension is there, but it lacks the dramatic intensity of the film. The movie, however, makes every second of this confrontation pulse with drama. The music, the intense visual effect, and Maggie Smith's impeccable delivery of the line transform the scene into a battle not just of wands, but of wills. It's a moment that highlights the stakes of the war, the personal stakes for McGonagall, and the strength of her character turning. What could have been a brief skirmish into one of the most thrilling and emotionally charged sequences in the entire series. Number 8. Sirius's death and Harry's breakdown. In the book, Harry's emotional breakdown after Sirius Black's death is tragic, but it's somewhat reserved. J.K. Rowling writes, "Harry felt as though his heart had been torn in two, capturing the depth of his grief, but the scene is filtered through Harry's internal turmoil. There's pain, but it's more contained as Harry tries to process the loss." The book allows us to understand his suffering from within, but it doesn't fully show the rawness of his emotions. The reader can feel his sorrow, but it's somewhat distanced as Harry struggles to hold himself together. In the film, however, Daniel Radcliffe's performance brings this moment to life in a way that is impossible to replicate in words. After Sirius's death, Harry storms into Dumbledore's office, his grief spilling over in a furious outburst. Radcliffe portrays Harry's desperation and anger with such intensity that it's almost palpable. He smashes things in the room, shouting in disbelief and rage, "He's gone!" The camera lingers on Harry's anguished face, capturing every tear, every tremor. It's a visceral moment, one that makes the viewer feel the unbearable weight of Harry's loss, and it's far more immediate and powerful than the book's description. The film's visual portrayal of Harry's grief surpasses the book's more subdued treatment, making the pain feel real and raw. The scenes of destruction in Dumbledore's office, the chaos Harry causes in his rage, are far more intense than the internal anguish depicted in the book. The film gives us the opportunity to experience Harry's helplessness and fury, bringing the emotional crisis to the forefront in a way that's far more immediate. In this case, the visual storytelling amplifies the emotional impact, making Harry's suffering all the more heartbreaking. Number 9. Felix Felicis and Aragog's funeral. In Half-Blood Prince, the scene where Harry drinks the Felix Felicis potion is one of the film's standout moments. In the book, this scene is amusing, but it's somewhat subdued. J.K. Rowling writes, Harry felt an almost uncontrollable urge to laugh as he sips the potion, but there's no real sense of how truly freeing the experience is. The humor is there, but it's mostly internal. The film, however, brings this moment to life in a way the book can't fully capture. Daniel Radcliffe's portrayal of Harry under the influence of Felix Felicis is wonderfully playful, capturing the light-heartedness and joy that comes with the potion's effects. The playful energy that Radcliffe exudes is contagious. As Harry walks around, everything seems to go right, and he takes advantage of the luck in the most carefree manner. The way he interacts with others, especially in the scene at the Burrow, where he's almost effortlessly charming, perfectly embodies the potion's effect. His laughter, his mischievous glances, and his easy confidence make the scene a delight to watch. It's as if Harry is temporarily freed from the weight of his world, and Radcliffe's performance captures this sense of liberation brilliantly. The moment at Aragog's funeral is particularly memorable. Under the influence of Felix Felicis, Harry is uncharacteristically carefree. As he speaks with Hagrid, there's a noticeable lightness in his voice. He jokingly tells Hagrid, "I'll miss the giant bloody spider," and his whole demeanor is relaxed and cheerful. This sense of freedom is a stark contrast to the usual tension that surrounds Harry, and it's clear that the potion has unlocked a side of him that he rarely shows. The dialogue, paired with Radcliffe's expressive face, gives the scene a levity that the book doesn't quite convey. The book's version of this scene, while funny, doesn't have the same level of exuberance. In the novel, the moment is more about the oddity of the situation. Harry trying to hold himself together as he feels the potion's effects. There's humor, but it's more internal, not as openly expressed. The film's adaptation, with its dynamic visuals and Radcliffe's infectious performance, transforms this moment into one of the most entertaining in the series. The combination of visual storytelling and Radcliffe's acting elevates the Felix Felicis scene into something uniquely memorable. Number 10. Harry and Dudley's final goodbye. In the book, Harry's final meeting with his cousin Dudley is significant but reserved. The exchange is brief, almost awkward, with little emotional depth. J.K. Rowling writes, Dudley gave him a look that was almost apologetic, but said nothing. There's a sense of closure, but it's understated. Dudley doesn't explicitly express any remorse or understanding. He simply acknowledges Harry in his own way, and it feels like a quiet, almost reluctant goodbye. It's a moment of character growth for Dudley, but it's not as emotionally charged as it could be. However, in the film, the moment is subtly transformed. Dudley's line, "Why isn't he coming with us?" is delivered with genuine concern, something not present in the book. The simple question, though brief, carries a weight of unspoken understanding. Dudley's face, filled with worry and hesitation, communicates volumes. It's as though he's finally realizing the depth of Harry's sacrifice, his own role in the past, and the gulf that has existed between them. There's an openness in his expression, a vulnerability that was missing in the book's more guarded version of the scene. The actors' performances elevate the emotional resonance of this moment. Harry Melling's portrayal of Dudley captures the complexity of the character's transformation. His expression conveys not just concern but a sense of regret, something that was merely hinted at in the book. When he asks why Harry isn't joining them, it feels like a quiet but significant apology, a recognition of the bond they never fully shared but that now, in this fleeting moment, is acknowledged. This small change in dialogue and performance gives the scene a deeper emotional impact. In the book, Dudley's character arc is completed with a simple, almost cold recognition. But the film turns that recognition into something more poignant, making the final meeting between Harry and Dudley more memorable and meaningful. It's a subtle shift, but one that adds a layer of emotional complexity to a relationship that throughout the series has been filled with tension and misunderstanding. The cinematic version of this scene succeeds in giving it the emotional weight that the book only hinted at. Number 11. Snape's death and look at me. In the book, Severus Snape's death occurs in the Shrieking Shack, and it's described in a stark, almost clinical way. The emotional weight of the moment is there, but it's overshadowed by the overall chaos. J.K. Rowling writes, Snape fell to the ground, his body convulsing, and that's it. There's no lingering moment of reflection, no extended emotional beat. The scene serves its purpose, but it doesn't dwell on the gravity of the loss. However, the film takes a much different approach, relocating Snape's final moments to the boathouse at Hogwarts. This simple change in location elevates the scene, imbuing it with an atmosphere of tragedy and finality. The setting itself adds depth. The boathouse, isolated from the chaos of the battle, becomes a quiet, intimate place for Snape's death. It contrasts sharply with the noise and conflict around it, making the moment feel all the more poignant. It's a space where time seems to slow, where we are allowed to focus on the character and the tragic end to his journey. The heavy rain pouring down outside only amplifies the sadness, creating a sense of inevitability. The boathouse becomes a grave not just for Snape, but for all the secrets he carried. Then there's Alan Rickman. His performance is nothing short of extraordinary. As Snape, Rickman's ability to convey such deep, hidden emotions with just a glance is mesmerizing. When he whispers to Harry, "Look at me," asking for one final glimpse of Lily Potter's eyes, it's a heartbreaking moment. Rickman's eyes, filled with sorrow and longing, communicate years of unspoken pain, making Snape's devotion to Lily Potter painfully clear. The film gives us a moment of raw humanity from a character who had always kept his emotions buried. In contrast, the book simply states, Snape's eyes closed, which is far less powerful. This pivotal scene in the film moves many viewers to tears, and it's easy to see why. The visual intimacy, the rain, the quiet, and Rickman's performance combine to create an emotional depth that the book's more restrained approach can't quite match. The film gives us a glimpse into Snape's soul, a final revelation of his true nature. It's a scene that resonates long after it ends, one that elevates Snape from a complex, mysterious figure to a tragic hero. Number 12. The destruction of the Millennium Bridge. The opening of Half-Blood Prince in the film stands in stark contrast to the book. While J.K. Rowling's original narrative describes the Death Eater attacks on the Muggle world in brief, indirect passages, the movie opts for a more explosive approach. The dramatic destruction of the Millennium Bridge in London unfolds in full, cinematic splendor. The powerful visual of the bridge collapsing as a result of the Death Eater's attack instantly grabs the viewer's attention. In the book, the destruction is described more subtly, with little detail. In contrast, the film leaves no room for ambiguity, showing the raw impact of Voldemort's forces on the Muggle world. The chaotic scene perfectly conveys the severity of the threat posed by the Dark Lord's followers. As the bridge crumbles into the river, panic spreads and the atmosphere is thick with tension. The viewers are not merely told of the danger, they feel it. The film's portrayal of this attack adds a sense of immediacy that the book only touches upon. The destruction of the bridge is more than a spectacle, it is a grim reminder of the war's escalation. In the book, the threat looms in the background, but the film brings it directly into the foreground, emphasizing its magnitude. In the novel, Rowling writes, the bridge had collapsed, a vast gaping hole in the middle of it. It is a concise statement, evoking the event without delving too deep into the visual chaos. The scene, while pivotal in establishing the stakes of the story, lacks the visceral punch that the film delivers. By focusing on the destruction itself, the film emphasizes the impending conflict, pulling the audience into the tension between the wizarding and Muggle worlds. The collapse of the bridge becomes a symbol, a physical manifestation of the destruction that Voldemort and his followers will unleash. This cinematic treatment elevates the story's sense of urgency. It isn't just about the war between wizards anymore. The Muggle world is under direct attack. This shift in focus makes the film's version of events feel larger, more dangerous, and more immediate. The visual power of the bridge's collapse fills a gap that the book left untouched, illustrating just how close the magical and Muggle worlds are to colliding in the coming storm. Number 13. Fred and George's escape from Umbridge. The scene of Fred and George Weasley's escape from Hogwarts under the oppressive rule of Dolores Umbridge is one of the most iconic moments in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. In the book, J.K. Rowling paints a vivid picture of the twins' daring act of rebellion, combining humor and a sense of defiance. However, it is in the film adaptation that the scene reaches a level of spectacle and exhilaration that far exceeds the pages of the novel. The filmmakers took Rowling's foundation and elevated it into a grandiose display of color, chaos, and triumph that resonates with audiences even more profoundly than the written word. In the book, the escape is dramatic, but it unfolds through words that convey the twins' joy and boldness. Their defiant move occurs during an intensely controlled moment in the Great Hall, where Umbridge has tightened her grip over the students with an iron fist. As Fred and George begin their prank, they are clearly having the time of their lives, playing with fireworks that create a dazzling and dangerous display. The chaotic beauty of their act, alongside the students' delighted reactions, is palpable in the book, but it is still grounded in the limitations of a written medium. Rowling's description of the fireworks as a dazzling array of bright colors and the twins' playful taunts before their departure are thrilling, but they remain confined to the imagination of the reader. The film adaptation, however, takes this premise and explodes it into a cinematic spectacle. When Fred and George decide to leave Hogwarts, they do so with an energy that feels electric, and it is this energy that the filmmakers captured so brilliantly. The visual effects in the film bring the fireworks to life, transforming them from a mere dazzling array into a riot of color and sound. As the Weasley twins light the fireworks, they bloom into enormous, intricate shapes, twisting and turning in the air above the heads of the shocked students and staff. It's not just a prank anymore, it's an act of resistance, a protest against the rigid authority that has defined Umbridge's reign at Hogwarts. The audience, seeing this spectacle unfold on screen, feels the same rush of exhilaration that Fred and George themselves must have felt. The fireworks are far more than mere decorations. They symbolize freedom, chaos, and rebellion. In the book, we can imagine the sparks flying, but in the movie, we see the fireworks explode with such a force that they fill the entire hall, creating a visual representation of the havoc that Fred and George are wreaking on Umbridge's carefully curated order. The destructive beauty of the fireworks is a direct challenge to Umbridge's authoritarian rule. Their flamboyance, coupled with the twins' unapologetic behavior, creates an atmosphere of subversive joy that seems to give voice to every student who has ever felt oppressed or stifled by authority. The way the scene unfolds in the film also makes the entire escape feel even more daring. In the book, Fred and George's departure is quick and humorous, but it is also somewhat understated. The pair makes a grand exit with their typical cheeky remarks, but it's the quieter moments that leave an impact, like their teasing comments to Umbridge and their carefree nature as they set off the fireworks. Fred's declaration, "We'll get you for this, you know," as he makes his exit, leaves a bittersweet taste of rebellion in the air, but it's a relatively quiet moment where the characters' emotions are conveyed largely through words. On screen, however, Fred and George's escape becomes a loud, triumphant climax. As they set off their fireworks, the entire hall erupts into chaos. The film captures the full scale of the eruption, showing the fireworks bursting into massive explosions, filling the screen with bright, colourful patterns. There is a palpable sense of release as Umbridge's tyrannical order crumbles before the eyes of the students. This is not just a prank. This is the final straw in a battle between authority and freedom, and the movie turns it into an all-consuming moment of glorious defiance. One of the most effective aspects of the film's portrayal of this scene is the reaction of the staff, particularly Filch. In the book, Filch's frustration is clear, but it is understated. He is described as banging his fist on the door, impotent in his attempts to control the situation. However, the film takes Filch's annoyance and transforms it into something almost comical. As he runs around the hall, trying unsuccessfully to catch the fireworks or stop the Weasley twins, his reaction becomes an exaggerated, cartoonish attempt to restore order. The film does not shy away from showing his flailing attempts, which provides a humorous counterpoint to the spectacle that Fred and George have unleashed. This amplifies the sense of victory that the twins experience. Filch's antics are a futile effort, and his character becomes a symbol of the old guard, powerless in the face of new forces. Perhaps the most significant enhancement in the film is the grandiose manner in which Fred and George make their exit. As the fireworks explode and the chaos unfolds, the twins do not simply slip away unnoticed. Instead, they perform their exit with theatrical flair, deliberately drawing attention to themselves and reveling in their moment of triumph. Fred's final line in the book, "We're outta here," is delivered with a sense of carefree bravado, but it is much more impactful in the film. As he and George float away on their broomsticks, they say their iconic final words, "The joke's on you, Umbridge." The moment is punctuated with a booming laugh that seems to echo through the hall, symbolizing the twins' victory and the collapse of the system that has so long oppressed them. Number 14, The First Broomstick Lesson. In J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first flying lesson held on the manicured lawns of Hogwarts sets the stage for a pivotal moment in the young wizard's journey. Yet the description in the book is relatively brief and, though filled with significance, lacks the pulse-pounding excitement that comes to life in the film adaptation. The movie transforms what was once a simple lesson into one of the most thrilling scenes of the entire first installment. With the music of John Williams swelling in the background and the breathtaking cinematography elevating every moment, the flying lesson becomes an unforgettable experience for Harry and for the audience. In the book, Harry's first flight on a broomstick happens quickly, and while it's clearly important, the true emotional weight of the moment is barely hinted at in the text. In the book, the lesson is described without much fanfare. Harry, in a class with the other first years, receives his broom, which is described as just a stick with a bit of string around it. In his nervousness, he hesitates, unsure of how to ride, before being thrust into action by Madam Hooch. The lesson itself is quick, and Harry's first flight is awkward, with him almost immediately losing control of the broom. The excitement of the moment, however, is more focused on the fact that Harry manages to keep himself aloft, briefly. When he suddenly zooms into the air, it's an exhilarating but fleeting moment. The book doesn't linger much on the sensations or the magical nature of flying. It's mostly a setup for the chaos that follows, including Malfoy's taunts and the brooms being taken away. However, the film version breathes a much richer life into the scene. It starts with a visual explosion of magic and excitement, an explosion that doesn't just come from the flying lesson itself, but from the way it's presented. Director Chris Columbus, working with cinematographer John Seale, beautifully captured the feeling of flight. The camera pans up as Harry grips the broom, and as he rises into the air for the first time, the world around him becomes vast and open. The film makes the audience feel Harry's exhilaration through sweeping aerial shots as his perspective changes from one of uncertainty to absolute freedom. The added weight of John Williams's score, an iconic piece of music known for its sense of wonder and adventure, helps to amplify this feeling. The first time Harry hovers in the air, the music swells with strings and brass, carrying the moment with a sense of triumph. It's as if the magic of the broomstick, the freedom it represents, and Harry's excitement are all condensed into one dynamic, visual, and auditory experience. The camera work takes full advantage of the moment, following Harry's ascent with swift and sweeping motions, giving us a view of the vastness of the Hogwarts grounds with its sprawling lawns and looming towers. The sense of scale in the film makes the scene feel grander than it does on the pages of the book. It's as though Harry is not just learning a lesson, he's discovering a new part of himself. One of the film's most brilliant choices is to give the sequence more emotional depth. The book's description of Harry's flight is indeed significant. His ability to fly marks him as special, someone who possesses a natural talent for something that many other students struggle with. But the film takes this to another level, showing the joy on Harry's face as he flies and allowing us to experience that joy with him. The camera work allows us to feel what Harry feels, the rush of wind, the sense of freedom, and the joy of defying gravity. For Harry, the broomstick is not just a tool, it's a means of escape, a way to finally experience something beyond the walls of his cupboard or the cruelness of the Dursleys. What really elevates this scene, though, is how the film allows us to see Harry's transformation. In the book, he is described as having a natural ability to fly, but it's a matter-of-fact description. In the film, however, we see that ability manifest in an entirely cinematic way. There's a moment in which Harry, after having struggled a bit, suddenly gains control of the broom. The music soars as the camera follows him, twisting and turning through the air. His face lights up with a genuine, childlike joy, as if for a moment he's free from the shackles of his past. This contrast between Harry's life before and after the broomstick becomes crystal clear. The broom is not just an object of magic, it's a symbol of the possibility and adventure that await him in this new world. Another key difference between the book and the film version is how the reactions of other characters are shown. In the book, Harry's flight is largely a solitary experience, with the other students merely looking on in surprise. But in the movie, we get a more dynamic interaction between Harry and his classmates. When he takes off for the first time, the other students react not just with surprise, but with awe. We see Ron's face light up, his admiration for Harry palpable. Even Hermione, ever the studious one, can't help but show a bit of excitement. This group reaction is important, as it gives Harry's achievement more weight. In the book, he does well on the broomstick, but it's more of a passing event. In the film, it's a moment of connection between Harry and his peers, one that sets the tone for his relationships going forward. Number 15, Final Duel, Harry versus Voldemort in the Courtyard. The final battle between Harry Potter and Voldemort is one of the most significant moments in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, a climactic clash that marks the culmination of the series' overarching themes of good versus evil. In the books, the battle occurs in the Great Hall of Hogwarts, with many witnesses observing the momentous showdown. While this setting is logical, it is in the film adaptation where the final confrontation takes on a visual grandeur that far exceeds its literary counterpart. In the cinematic version, the duel between Harry and Voldemort takes place outside, amidst the ruins and devastation of Hogwarts' once glorious castle, creating a visual spectacle that intensifies the personal stakes of the conflict. The book's depiction of the final showdown is more about the resolution of the story's long-running themes than about sheer spectacle. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the battle takes place in the Great Hall, filled with onlookers, students, teachers, and members of the Order of the Phoenix. The scene in the book focuses on the idea that Harry has defeated Voldemort through the strength of his heart, his connection to his friends, and his willingness to sacrifice himself. This emphasizes the emotional and thematic resolution of the series. As the final confrontation approaches, Harry is willing to die, accepting that he is the only one who can end the Dark Lord's reign of terror. Voldemort, on the other hand, is consumed by the belief that he must destroy Harry to maintain his power. In the film, however, the stakes are raised by the change in setting. The filmmakers chose to move the final confrontation to the grounds of Hogwarts, a space that, unlike the closed-in atmosphere of the Great Hall, feels vast and open. The battle takes place among the ruins of the castle, with destruction all around, which visually reflects the brokenness of the wizarding world. This change in setting shifts the tone from a simple victory over evil to a much grander, more heroic moment. The smoke and ashes swirling around the two duelists serve as a stark metaphor for the battle between life and death, the ultimate struggle for survival between Harry and Voldemort. The scene is not merely about defeating the enemy, it's about the entire destruction of the world that Voldemort sought to build and the collapse of his regime. One of the most striking visual moments in the film is the moment when the wands of Harry and Voldemort clash. In the book, the duel is described with detail, but it is the film's portrayal of this moment that creates a true sense of epic scale. As the two wands connect, the scene is charged with a burst of light that fills the screen, rendering the air around them crackling with energy. The visual contrast is breathtaking. Harry, who represents the power of love and self-sacrifice, and Voldemort, who wields his magic with a sense of fear and domination, are locked in a moment of pure magical intensity. The swirling effects around their wands create a sense of power that is palpable, and the viewer is left breathless, caught up in the spectacle of it all. The book, while powerful in its narrative, doesn't capture this raw, sensory impact. In the film, the magic feels real, almost tangible, and the emotional weight of the moment hits hard. The choice to place the final battle outdoors, surrounded by the remnants of the battle that has raged throughout the castle, also serves to underline the personal nature of the conflict. Unlike the Great Hall, where the battle might feel like just another spectacle, the grounds of Hogwarts are intimate, symbolic of everything that Harry has fought to protect. The castle, the home that once stood as a place of safety and refuge, is now reduced to rubble. This symbolizes not only the physical devastation Voldemort has caused, but also the emotional toll of the conflict. Harry's victory is not just about defeating Voldemort, it is about reclaiming what Voldemort sought to destroy: hope, love, and the idea that good can triumph over evil. In the book, Harry's victory is largely a result of his understanding of the Elder Wand, a symbol of power that Voldemort misinterprets. When Voldemort attempts to kill Harry with the Elder Wand, it backfires because the wand's true master is Harry, not its previous owner. The duel itself, though important, is more about the underlying concept of mastery over power and the realization that Voldemort's lack of love and trust has sealed his fate. In the movie, however, this theme is amplified visually. The final moments of the battle, as Harry and Voldemort face each other down, are far more dramatic and cinematic. The audience is not just watching two characters duel, they are watching the end of a reign of terror, the ultimate collapse of a dark power. What the film adaptation adds is a sense of grandeur and closure that extends beyond the action. As Harry and Voldemort's wands connect, the sound design is intense, adding to the tension of the moment. The combination of powerful visual effects and a stirring musical score amplifies the importance of the scene, making it feel like the culmination of not just the story of Harry Potter, but of all the trials, sacrifices, and victories of the wizarding world. In contrast, the book's version of the duel is more subdued, focusing less on the spectacle and more on the emotional and symbolic elements of Harry's journey. The film, in this case, enhances the emotional impact by making the battle feel both personal and universal. A grand moment of magic, power, and destiny. Number 16, Draco and Harry's encounter on the Hogwarts Express. In J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the moment when Professor Remus Lupin transforms into a werewolf is a chilling yet relatively understated scene. In the book, the transformation is described vividly, yet the focus remains on the character's emotional responses rather than on the gruesome physical details. Lupin's struggle with his identity as a werewolf is hinted at throughout the novel, but it is this particular scene in the Shrieking Shack that brings his secret to light. He was no longer Professor Lupin, but a terrifying creature, is how the text encapsulates the moment, emphasizing the emotional and psychological impact on Harry and his friends rather than a graphic portrayal of the transformation itself. However, when this scene was adapted for the film, it was elevated to a whole new level of intensity. Director Alfonso Cuarón, known for his ability to create atmospheric and suspenseful moments, utilized every element of filmmaking to turn Lupin's transformation into a cinematic spectacle that left an indelible mark on audiences. The transformation in the book was a powerful moment, but the film version brought the terror and horror of the situation into sharper focus, making it far more immediate and visceral. The first element that the filmmakers used to intensify the scene was the setting. In the book, the transformation takes place in the Shrieking Shack, which itself is a shadowy and mysterious location. But the film took full advantage of the dark, atmospheric space to heighten the sense of danger. As Harry, Ron, and Hermione stand helplessly, they are bathed in the eerie moonlight that spills into the shack. The light flickers, casting unsettling shadows across their faces. The floor creaks underfoot, and there is an overwhelming sense of foreboding as they realize that they are trapped, unable to escape the looming horror. But it's not just the setting that adds to the terror. The transformation itself is where the film version truly diverges from the book. The special effects used to depict Lupin's metamorphosis into a werewolf are nothing short of stunning. It's a painful, horrific experience, and the film doesn't shy away from showing every agonizing moment. The camera focuses on Lupin's contorted body, his bones cracking and elongating as fur sprouts from his skin. The filmmakers ensure that every visual detail conveys the agony of the transformation. The screams of pain echo in the silent shack, creating a stark contrast between the intense quiet that precedes it and the chaotic, animalistic howls that follow. One of the most striking aspects of the film scene is the use of sound. In the book, the transformation is described as happening so quickly that it's almost a blur. But in the film, the sounds of bones breaking, muscles stretching, and the inhuman growls that accompany Lupin's change are emphasized to create a feeling of claustrophobic panic. The music score, composed by John Williams, is perfectly timed, with a deep, low hum building in the background, creating an unsettling rhythm. The crescendo of the music mirrors the rapid acceleration of Lupin's transformation, increasing the emotional tension to a boiling point. What makes this scene particularly gripping is the vulnerability of the characters witnessing it. In the book, the transformation is horrifying, but it's filtered through Harry's eyes, and there's a sense that he is witnessing something outside of his control. In the film, however, we see the raw terror of Lupin's students, who have always known him as the kind and gentle professor. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, who had no idea what they were walking into, are suddenly confronted with the reality that their beloved teacher is a creature of unimaginable power and danger. This shift from familiarity to terror is what makes the film's scene so haunting. As Lupin's transformation reaches its apex, the filmmakers make the deliberate choice to show the werewolf in full form. The final visual of the creature, with its glowing yellow eyes and snarling mouth, is chilling. The werewolf is not merely a supernatural entity, but a physical manifestation of everything that Lupin has fought to keep hidden from his students. He is no longer the mild-mannered professor, but a wild, uncontrollable beast, a stark reminder of the dangers that exist even in the supposedly safe confines of Hogwarts. The visual cues in the film speak to the fragility of the world that Harry has come to rely on. Hogwarts is no longer a sanctuary, it's a place where dark, dangerous secrets are waiting to be uncovered. One of the most compelling aspects of this transformation is how it reflects Lupin's internal struggle. Throughout the book, Lupin is portrayed as a man burdened by his curse, trying to live a normal life despite the monstrous side of him that emerges every month. This internal battle is captured in the film through the agonizing physical transformation. The pain and anguish on Lupin's face as he contorts into the werewolf underscores the emotional toll of his condition. He is not a villain, but a tragic figure who has been forced to live in the shadows, both literally and metaphorically. The filmmakers also used the transformation to deepen the relationship between Lupin and his students, especially Harry. In the book, Harry's sympathy for Lupin grows as he learns more about his condition. However, in the film, the transformation acts as a catalyst for this understanding. Harry and his friends are horrified by what they see, but they also come to recognize the immense courage it takes for Lupin to confront his fears every month. By showing the transformation in such visceral detail, the film conveys the sheer emotional and physical toll that Lupin endures, making it clear that his condition is not something he can simply hide or ignore. Perhaps the most important aspect of the film's portrayal of Lupin's transformation is how it underscores the precariousness of life at Hogwarts. In the book, the idea that there are hidden dangers lurking even in the safest places is present, but it's the film that truly makes it palpable. The students are not just facing a werewolf, they are confronting the reality that the world they inhabit is far more dangerous and unpredictable than they ever imagined. Even their most trusted figures like Professor Lupin have secrets that could tear apart the very fabric of their lives. The safety of Hogwarts is an illusion, and the transformation scene makes this truth inescapably clear. Moreover, the scene in the film does an excellent job of conveying the helplessness and fear of the students. In the book, Harry and his friends try to help Lupin, but they are ultimately unable to stop him. They are mere bystanders, watching as their professor transforms into a creature that they cannot control. In the film, this sense of helplessness is amplified. The camera lingers on their faces as they are frozen in terror, unable to do anything but watch as the werewolf emerges. The feeling of isolation and fear is palpable, and it speaks to the broader themes of the series, how Harry and his friends must confront dangers that are beyond their understanding and control. The transformation scene in the film also serves to heighten the stakes for the larger story. Lupin's transformation isn't just a standalone moment of horror, it is intricately tied to the broader narrative of the film. It emphasizes the ever-present danger of the forces of darkness that Harry and his friends must face. The werewolf is a reminder that even the most trusted people can harbor dark secrets, and that danger is never far from reach. In the book, Lupin's transformation is a moment of terror, but it doesn't have the same immediate, visceral impact as it does in the film. The filmmakers took this moment and elevated it, turning it into a scene that is not just about the werewolf, but about the very nature of fear and the dangers lurking within the seemingly safe walls of Hogwarts. Through the clever use of visual effects, sound design, and character emotion, the film adaptation of Lupin's transformation captures the full weight of this moment, making it one of the most memorable and frightening scenes in the entire series. This scene, in its full cinematic glory, is a perfect example of how the film adaptation can take a key moment from the book and transform it into something even more intense, emotional, and terrifying. It's not just about showing a werewolf, it's about showing the profound and disturbing reality that no one is truly safe and that the world of Harry Potter is filled with dangers that lurk just beneath the surface, ready to spring forth at any moment. Number 17, The Ghost of Helena Ravenclaw, the Grey Lady. In the world of Harry Potter, there are moments when the magic of the written word transcends the page and finds new life on the screen. One such moment is the scene between Harry Potter and the ghost of Helena Ravenclaw, also known as the Grey Lady, in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The scene in the book is brief, factual, almost a passing encounter, but in the film it takes on a depth of emotion and gravity that makes it unforgettable. In J.K. Rowling's novel, the scene between Harry and the Grey Lady is largely functional. As Harry seeks out the Grey Lady in the hopes of learning more about the final Horcrux, the conversation feels more like an exchange of necessary information than an emotional or spiritual encounter. The ghost of Helena Ravenclaw, daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw, founder of one of the Hogwarts houses, provides a small yet significant piece of the puzzle that Harry needs to destroy Lord Voldemort. In this version, the interaction between Harry and Helena is quick, factual, and matter-of-fact, almost as if it were just another piece of the mystery to be solved. It doesn't dwell on any deeper emotions or the complex backstory of the Grey Lady herself. Yet when we move to the film adaptation, the scene takes on an entirely different tone, a darker, more poignant atmosphere that enhances both the character of Helena Ravenclaw and the narrative of the film. The Grey Lady, played by the talented actress Gemma Jones, is not merely a spectral figure. She becomes a tortured soul, a character weighed down by guilt and sorrow. The transformation of this character from the novel's brief encounter to the film's emotionally charged monologue is remarkable. In the movie, the moment we see the Grey Lady is heavy with the burden of her history. The character isn't just a ghost from the past. She is a tragic figure, haunted by the betrayal she committed many years ago. Her voice, trembling with emotion, speaks not just of the theft of the diadem of Ravenclaw, but of the deep emotional scars she carries. Helena Ravenclaw's tragic story of betrayal, her flight from her mother's expectations, and the loss of the diadem which was later turned into a Horcrux, are presented with a richness that we do not get in the book. There's a haunted quality to the way she speaks, and it's clear that the pain of her actions has never left her. Gemma Jones, in her portrayal of Helena, imbues the ghost with a palpable sorrow. Her eyes, clouded with remorse, hold the weight of a lifetime of regret. She speaks not just of her actions, but of her feelings of abandonment by her mother, Rowena Ravenclaw, and the self-inflicted pain of having committed a betrayal. It's not just a ghostly encounter for Harry, it's a confrontation with a soul torn apart by her own actions. This depth of emotion wasn't present in the original text. The book presents Helena as a rather distant figure, offering information in a way that doesn't invite the reader to feel her suffering. But in the film, we see her as a tragic figure, her mother's abandonment and her own guilt, creating a haunting atmosphere that leaves a lasting impression. Helena's monologue about her actions resonates deeply in the film. She speaks of the betrayal she committed when she stole her mother's diadem of Ravenclaw, an act that would ultimately lead to her death. She confesses to Harry how she had always felt in the shadow of her mother's brilliance, and how, in a moment of defiance, she took the diadem and fled. Her words reflect a deep-seated bitterness and sorrow for her actions, and we see how her guilt has marred her existence, transforming her into a ghost who cannot rest. The words she speaks are not just about the diadem or her flight, they are about the brokenness of her soul, and it's this emotional depth that makes the scene so impactful. The film also adds an eerie, haunting quality to Helena's image. Unlike in the book, where the Grey Lady's presence is a fleeting one, in the film she becomes a figure that lingers. The shot of her floating in the darkened room, surrounded by shadows, speaks to her isolation and the endless sorrow she carries. The visual elements enhance the emotional weight of the scene, making it more than just a conversation about a magical artifact. Instead, it becomes a moment of understanding and connection between Harry and a tormented soul. There is something deeply tragic about Helena, not only because of her betrayal, but because she will never find peace. The impact of her remorse is tangible, and her tortured existence becomes a poignant reminder of the consequences of past mistakes. In contrast, the book's version of Helena is a mere player in the larger game of Horcruxes and the destruction of Voldemort. Her importance lies in her connection to the diadem, which was ultimately turned into a Horcrux, and in the brief role she plays in aiding Harry's quest. There is a lack of emotional depth in her portrayal in the text, and her ghostly encounter with Harry is treated almost as an afterthought. We learn about her past, but we don't feel her pain, her loneliness, or her remorse. The emotional landscape of the character is left unexplored, and the book simply moves on, not pausing, to give the reader a chance to reflect on the tragic depth of Helena's soul. Yet the film, in its adaptation, manages to breathe life into this character, transforming her from a minor piece of the puzzle into a tragic figure whose pain is deeply felt. The dialogue, though not drastically altered from the book, takes on new meaning with Gemma Jones's delivery. Her voice quivers with the weight of centuries of regret. When she speaks of her betrayal and the diadem, it's not just a recounting of events, it's a confession, a plea for understanding that goes beyond mere information. The Grey Lady is not just a source of knowledge, she is a soul crying out for redemption. The choice to enhance this scene in the film allows us to see the emotional stakes of the story in a way that the book does not. The burden of Helena's guilt, the weight of her mother's expectations, and the pain of losing everything she once valued are palpable. When Helena says she cannot forgive herself for what she did, it is more than just an admission. It is the revelation of a character who has been defined by her mistakes for centuries. The Grey Lady's story is not just about the past. It's a reflection of the themes of guilt, loss, and the consequences of one's actions that resonate throughout the entire Harry Potter series. As the scene unfolds in the film, it becomes a meditation on the nature of forgiveness and the impact of our choices. Helena's ghost is not just an incidental character, she is a reminder of the moral complexities that run throughout the series. Her story, told with such emotional weight in the film, serves as a powerful counterpoint to the more straightforward moments of Harry's quest. It is a moment of vulnerability in the otherwise action-packed narrative. And in that vulnerability, we see something profound. The realization that even in the world of magic, the past has the power to shape us, for better or for worse. In conclusion, the scene between Harry and the Grey Lady in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is a prime example of how film adaptations can bring emotional depth to characters that may not have been fully explored in the books. Through Gemma Jones's powerful portrayal and the dramatic enhancement of the scene's atmosphere, the ghost of Helena Ravenclaw is transformed from a simple, informational character into a tragic figure. Her haunting remorse and the emotional weight of her betrayal become one of the film's most moving moments, proving that even the smallest scenes can carry immense emotional resonance when given the proper treatment. Number 18, The Aerial Battle over London. The opening scene of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Part 1 is a moment that forever changed how fans of the wizarding world perceived magic and danger on screen. It is a vivid, heart-pounding sequence that introduces the audience to an unprecedented level of spectacle, showing the world of Harry Potter in a completely new light. As members of the Order of the Phoenix escort Harry Potter to a safe house, the scene morphs into a cinematic masterpiece, one that stands apart from the corresponding scene in J.K. Rowling's book. In the novel, the aerial battle is mentioned briefly, almost as an afterthought, quick, functional, and without much detail. However, in the movie, this moment bursts into life, giving the audience a breathtaking, action-packed sequence that immediately sets the tone for the dark and tumultuous journey ahead. In the book, the aerial battle unfolds swiftly as Harry, accompanied by his friends and fellow Order members, is escorted away from Privet Drive to a safe location. There are brief descriptions of the air as the characters are pursued by Death Eaters, but the focus is less on the chase itself and more on Harry's internal feelings and thoughts during the escape. The narration stays grounded in Harry's perspective, recounting the danger in a detached manner. We read about the fight in the air, but it feels almost like a background event, a quick passing scene in the middle of the chaos. The sky was full of dark shapes, moving at speed, but none of the riders spoke. Their wands were drawn, and there was nothing but the thunder of broomsticks and the snapping of the wind. While this does convey the sense of urgency, it lacks the emotional weight and sensory intensity that the film would later provide. When director David Yates brought this scene to life on screen, he added a dynamic and thrilling sense of realism to the sequence, making the battle a pulse-pounding visual feast. The camera swoops through the night sky as Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the Order's members, each flying on broomsticks, are chased by cloaked figures. The scene is set over the glittering expanse of London, and the city below provides a stunning contrast to the storm of magic and danger above. The aerial chase is intense, with quick, sharp movements as the characters twist and turn, dodging curses and spells. We can feel the rush of wind, the heat of the spells, and the danger in the air as wands flick and broomsticks veer. The sharp cuts and rapid movements of the film are complemented by the pounding score that heightens the adrenaline-fueled nature of the escape. The film magnifies the stakes by focusing on the loss of two key characters, which makes the entire sequence feel more tragic and emotional. When Hedwig, Harry's loyal owl, is shot down in mid-air, the audience is left reeling with the sense that the stakes are not only life and death, but also the loss of innocence. In the book, Hedwig's death is only mentioned in passing, a brief but poignant moment amidst the chaos. Harry felt the shock of the curse, felt the loss, but he couldn't dwell on it, Rowling writes. In contrast, the film takes its time, showing the bird's final, dramatic moments as it falls from the sky, a symbol of everything Harry has lost, his childhood, his safety, and his connection to the past. The sound of the owl's wings fluttering as it plummets to the ground is gut-wrenching, and its death signifies the beginning of a more dangerous and uncertain world for Harry and his friends. The loss of Mad-Eye Moody's character is another tragic element of this sequence, underscoring the gravity of their situation. In the book, his death is a sad moment, but it is overshadowed by the sheer volume of the action taking place. Mad-Eye Moody had been killed in the battle, and his body had been left behind, is the way Rowling conveys his passing. However, in the film, his death is far more poignant. His sudden and violent death, as his magical eye is the last thing we see before he is struck down, adds another layer of emotional weight to the scene. The rapid movements of the film make the loss feel even more jarring as the camera spins and dives alongside the action, giving us little time to breathe before the next dramatic moment takes hold. There is an undeniable tension in the air as the characters soar above London, their brooms seemingly racing against the very wind itself. The pursuit is relentless, as Death Eaters, led by the terrifying figure of Bellatrix Lestrange, dive and weave, firing curses with reckless abandon. The film captures this chase in a way that is impossible in the book. In the book, but the action happens quickly, leaving little room for readers to visualize the scenes in a detailed and visceral manner. The film, however, uses intricate choreography and stunning special effects to show the magic as a physical force, with spells streaking across the sky like lightning and broomsticks maneuvering with impossible precision. The heightened sense of reality in the film creates an experience that is exhilarating and fully immersive, making the chase feel immediate and dangerous. Moreover, the visuals in the film amplify the scale of the battle. As Harry and his friends dart through the night sky, the city below becomes a dark labyrinth of streets and buildings, adding a sense of claustrophobia to the otherwise wide-open battle. The glowing lights of London's skyline, the sharp angles of the buildings, and the reflective surfaces of the windows all become part of the scenery. We can feel the danger of being so high up, surrounded by the oppressive dark sky, the flurry of magic, and the looming shadows of the enemy closing in. The scale of the battle, presented on such a grand visual scale, is something that would have been difficult to convey with words alone. The film uses its visuals to make the audience feel the urgency and the size of the threat in a way that the book could only hint at. Harry's emotions during this chase are also explored more deeply through the film's visual storytelling. In the book, Harry's thoughts are more internalized as he tries to focus on his task at hand, though there is a palpable sense of anxiety. His heart was pounding in his chest as he clung to his broomstick. The wind was deafening, but he didn't hear it, he heard only his thoughts. The film, on the other hand, takes a different approach, showing Harry's face, his strained expressions as the battle rages on. The viewer can see the anxiety in his eyes, the pain of loss, and the growing sense of responsibility. These visual cues make his emotional journey more tangible than the internal monologue in the book ever could. Perhaps the most striking part of this scene, however, is the sheer scale of the destruction and chaos that unfolds. As the battle rages, there are crashes, explosions, and a whirlwind of magical energy that transforms the air into a battlefield. The violence of the spells being cast, the stunning flashes of light, and the shrieks of danger make this one of the most visually intense scenes of the entire franchise. The film does not shy away from the full force of the violence, emphasizing the stakes and reminding us that nothing in this war is ever simple or clean. The flight sequences are a masterclass in action choreography where every movement feels necessary and purposeful. The broomstick chase through the night sky is not just a chase, it is a representation of the very nature of magic in the world of Harry Potter. It's not just about speed or power, but about agility, timing, and the will to survive. Each swoop, twist, and dive feels earned, and the stakes are real. The film brings to life the essence of wizarding duels in a way that the books, by their very nature, cannot. The sweeping, wide-angle shots of the London skyline, the intense close-ups of characters' faces, and the cacophony of sound all work together to elevate this scene into something unforgettable. The fight over London, with its dramatic pace, visual brilliance and emotional heft serves as a turning point in the film and in the series as a whole. It establishes the stakes of the final confrontation between good and evil, showing how high the cost of this war truly is. It takes what was a brief, functional scene in the book and expands it into one of the most iconic and emotional moments of the entire franchise, a breathtaking spectacle that leaves a lasting impact on the viewer. Number 19. The Mirror of Erased Scene. In the magical world of Harry Potter, certain moments carry immense emotional weight, and one such moment occurs in the first film when Harry Potter first encounters the Mirror of Erased. The Mirror of Erased, which reflects the deepest desires of a person's heart, is introduced in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. While the scene in the book is poignant, it is in the film where the moment becomes truly unforgettable. The filmmakers, led by director Chris Columbus and composer John Williams, transformed this already powerful scene into one that not only shows Harry's longing for his parents, but also embodies his deepest emotional struggles. In the book, J.K. Rowling describes the Mirror of Erased with a certain calmness, allowing the reader to experience the importance of the moment through Harry's understanding of it. The mirror was as high as the ceiling, and its gold frame was covered in the dust of years. It is a somber moment as Harry gazes into the mirror and sees himself surrounded by his deceased parents. Yet the description in the book remains quite analytical, focused on what Harry sees rather than on what Harry feels. Harry's reaction is understood but not fully explored in an emotional sense. The book conveys that he is overwhelmed with joy at the sight of his parents, yet it leaves the emotional impact somewhat reserved. The reader is left to imagine Harry's inner turmoil as he is confronted with something that represents both his hope and his grief. In the film, however, the scene takes on a whole new life. The decision to accompany the scene with John Williams' hauntingly beautiful score adds a layer of emotion that the book could only hint at. The soft, melancholic piano that begins to play as Harry first looks into the mirror of Erased draws the viewer into Harry's private world. The music carries the weight of his grief, and in that moment it seems to embody all of the years he has spent yearning for the parents he never knew. The music swells softly as if urging Harry to linger in the fantasy of a life he never had, a life that could never be. This subtle addition of sound brings a depth to the scene that amplifies the emotions on screen, making it far more poignant than its book counterpart. The cinematography also enhances the scene in a way that the book could not. The warm, soft light that bathes the mirror of Erased creates a dreamlike atmosphere. The glow seems to invite Harry into a place of peace and nostalgia. The film's visual language allows us to feel what Harry feels, not just to understand it, but to experience it ourselves. The Mirror of Erased is not just a magical object. It becomes a conduit to the past, a portal that offers Harry the chance to experience the love of his parents, if only in an illusionary form. The image of Harry standing there, bathed in that soft light, makes the moment feel intimate, as if we are seeing a side of Harry that few others ever get to witness, his vulnerability, his longing, his grief. In the book, Harry's expression upon seeing his parents is described simply. Harry, who had never seen his parents, smiled at them in the mirror. While this sentence conveys the sense of joy Harry feels, it doesn't fully capture the overwhelming emotional complexity of the moment. The film, however, amplifies this by focusing on Daniel Radcliffe's facial expressions. His performance, subtle yet profound, brings Harry's joy and sorrow to life. When Harry sees his parents in the mirror, his face lights up with a smile that is both joyous and filled with longing. His eyes well up with tears, and the audience can feel the mixture of happiness and sadness that comes with such a vision. Radcliffe doesn't just portray a boy seeing his parents for the first time. He captures the ache of knowing that this vision is only a reflection of what he cannot have. The powerful symbolism of this moment lies not just in Harry's desire to see his parents, but in what it represents for him. As Harry stands in front of the mirror, he's not just gazing at a reflection, he is confronting the very essence of his identity, an orphan, raised without the love and support that most children take for granted. The mirror of Erised serves as a painful reminder of everything Harry has missed. The tenderness with which Radcliffe plays the scene adds layers of complexity as the young actor makes Harry's deep-seated grief almost tangible. The smile that crosses his face as he gazes at his parents is both pure and heartbreaking, for it is not simply a smile of joy but also of sorrow, because he knows that the happiness he is seeing is not real. What truly makes this scene stand out, however, is the moment when Harry's expression shifts from joy to something else entirely. As he continues to stare at the mirror, the sense of longing that fills his face deepens. It is not just about wanting to see his parents, it is about wanting the life they represent. The image in the mirror symbolizes everything that Harry has been denied: love, safety, family. This is what makes the scene not just a moment of longing, but a moment of revelation about Harry's innermost needs. He is not just seeing his parents, he is seeing the life he was meant to have, but was denied by the dark forces that took them away. The film also adds a layer of complexity with Harry's repeated visits to the mirror. In the book, Harry's desire to return to the mirror is described briefly, and his obsession with the mirror is revealed through his actions, but the emotional depth of these visits is not fully explored. In the movie, however, the visual and emotional power of these visits is more pronounced. The camera lingers on Harry's face as he returns to the mirror, time and time again, his desperation growing with each visit. The way the camera focuses on his tear-filled eyes and the subtle changes in his expression tells the audience everything they need to know about Harry's internal struggle. This exploration of his emotional state would be difficult to achieve through mere words on a page. The film makes it possible for the audience to see and feel the weight of Harry's yearning, his inability to let go of a fantasy that is too perfect to abandon. This is what makes the scene with the mirror of Erised in the film so much more effective than its counterpart in the book. The film not only tells us what Harry is feeling, but also makes us feel it with him. The addition of music, cinematography, and Radcliffe's nuanced performance creates a moment that transcends the limitations of words. The mirror of Erised in the film is not just a magical artifact, it becomes a symbol of all the things Harry has lost and all the things he continues to yearn for. The scene captures the complexity of his emotions in a way that the book, by necessity, cannot. The scene's emotional impact also comes from the way it ties into the broader themes of the series. The mirror of Erised shows Harry the possibility of a life that he will never have, a life of love and security. But it also teaches him a crucial lesson, that looking too long at a fantasy can prevent one from moving forward in life. This idea is explored more deeply in later books, but the seeds are planted in this very moment. In the film, this lesson is communicated subtly through the way Harry's face softens as he begins to realize the danger of his obsession. He understands that the mirror is not showing him a future, but a past he cannot change. The emotional depth of this scene, amplified by the film's artistic choices, elevates it beyond a simple magical moment. It is a window into Harry's heart, a glimpse into his deepest desires and fears. The mirror of Erised is not just a mirror in the literal sense, it is a mirror into Harry's soul. And through the film's careful use of music, lighting, and performance, this moment becomes one of the most powerful and heartbreaking scenes in the entire Harry Potter series. Number 20, Molly against Bellatrix. The moment was a culmination of years of pent-up emotion, a long-awaited clash that had been brewing through the pages of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. In the book, the battle between Bellatrix Lestrange and Molly Weasley is brief, almost a footnote in the broader narrative of the Battle of Hogwarts. When Bellatrix raises her wand at Ginny, Molly's maternal instincts explode. The words from Molly come out sharply, "Not my daughter, you bitch!" Her spell strikes Bellatrix down, bringing an end to the Dark Witch's reign of terror. It is over in an instant, a final, powerful declaration of love and protection from a mother who would do anything to save her child. But in the film, this fleeting moment is transformed into something much more. It becomes a sweeping, dramatic confrontation, far more emotional and cinematic than the words on the page could ever convey. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, the scene is far from the brief skirmish described in the book. The filmmakers had a vision to make this one of the most climactic and cathartic moments of the entire series. They understood the emotional weight of the event, and that this was not merely the death of a villain, but the triumph of love and motherhood over madness and cruelty. The sequence begins with a chaotic, almost apocalyptic battle scene filled with explosions and the crackle of magic. The camera focuses on Molly Weasley, standing alone as the carnage of the battle rages around her. The emotional stakes are clear. Bellatrix is not just an enemy, she is a monster who has caused so much pain, and now she stands in front of Molly's daughter, Ginny. The hatred and fear of losing her child mix into a powerful force that propels Molly into action. Helena Bonham Carter's portrayal of Bellatrix Lestrange is a chaotic whirlwind of malevolence. She is a woman undone by madness, driven by a twisted devotion to Voldemort and a deep, irrational hatred for everything good. Bonham Carter brings a wild energy to the character, her hair disheveled, her eyes wide with insanity. She is unhinged, merciless, a perfect representation of the kind of madness that Voldemort's followers cling to. Her performance makes the viewer feel the danger in her every movement, the unpredictability of her magic, and the frightening intensity with which she goes after her targets. In contrast, Molly Weasley, played by Julie Walters, is the image of quiet, fierce strength. Molly is not a soldier by training, nor is she a wizard on the battlefield by choice. She is, above all else, a mother, one who would do anything to protect her children. In the book, her love for her family is evident, but in the film, it bursts to life in a vivid, stunning way that allows the audience to experience her fear, her rage, and the deep, unshakable love that propels her into action. The battle that unfolds between the two women is a visual spectacle, a combination of swift, powerful magic and emotional intensity. Bellatrix and Molly trade spells in rapid succession, the air between them thick with the force of their magic. The spells crash into the walls of the Great Hall, sending sparks flying, and the ground shakes with the intensity of the power being unleashed. The sound of clashing wands fills the air, a symphony of destructive energy. In the book, the fight is quick and decisive, a few words, and then Bellatrix is gone. But in the film, it is much more than just a duel. It is a symbol of everything these two women represent. Bellatrix, driven by hatred and cruelty, and Molly, driven by love and the desire to protect. Each spell cast between them is a reflection of the opposing forces that have shaped their lives. For Bellatrix, this is the moment where her madness and obsession with Voldemort are put to the test. For Molly, it is a moment of incredible power, a moment where her love for her family turns into an unstoppable force. When Molly finally unleashes the spell that defeats Bellatrix, it is not just an ordinary spell. It is a powerful, final act of defiance. Bellatrix is blasted into the air, her body disintegrating into nothingness as Molly's magic tears her apart. The visual of Bellatrix's destruction is stunning, both in its symbolism and its intensity. There is no doubt that the moment is meant to convey more than just Bellatrix's death. It is the end of her reign of terror, the ultimate punishment for a woman who has caused so much suffering. The visual effects are meticulously crafted, with Bellatrix's body breaking apart into shards, a moment that feels both final and inevitable. Her madness and cruelty are literally disintegrated, leaving nothing behind but the emptiness of her twisted soul. The emotional impact of the scene is undeniable. The film takes what was a relatively small moment in the book and makes it one of the most memorable and emotionally charged sequences in the series. In the book, the moment is over in an instant, a brief flash of justice. But in the film, the emotional resonance of the scene lingers long after the credits roll. The audience feels the weight of Molly's victory, the finality of her act of love and protection. It is a victory not just for Molly, but for all of the characters who have been fighting for the greater good, for the very essence of life and love itself. It is a victory for the mothers, the protectors, the ones who fight against the darkness no matter what it takes. Julie Walters' portrayal of Molly in this moment is nothing short of extraordinary. There is a primal power in her performance, a raw, emotional energy that makes her final spell feel like the culmination of everything she has been fighting for. In that moment, Molly is not just a mother, but a force of nature. The entire battle, the entire war, has led to this moment where she, a mother, stands against one of the most terrifying figures in the wizarding world and emerges victorious. The transformation from a loving, nurturing figure to a fierce protector is breathtaking, and Walters delivers it with a conviction that makes the scene unforgettable. The battle between Molly and Bellatrix is also symbolic of the larger war at play. The Death Eaters, led by Voldemort, are fueled by hatred and a desire for control, while the Order of the Phoenix and the forces of good fight with love, loyalty, and courage. The duel between the two women reflects this larger struggle. Bellatrix, with all her madness and cruelty, is the embodiment of everything that Voldemort stands for, and she is ultimately destroyed by the pure, unyielding love that Molly has for her family. It is a powerful statement, a reminder that love is the greatest weapon against evil. The scene also highlights the stark contrast between Bellatrix and Molly, both in character and in their approaches to magic. Bellatrix is a slave to her emotions, driven by a need for destruction and chaos. Molly, on the other hand, uses her magic with precision and purpose, guided by love and protection. The magic in this battle is not random or impulsive. It is deliberate, shaped by the deepest parts of these women's identities. The spells fly with an intensity that matches the emotions driving them, creating a powerful and meaningful cinematic experience. In the end, the confrontation between Molly Weasley and Bellatrix Lestrange is one of the most satisfying and emotional moments in the entire Harry Potter saga. The film takes what was a relatively brief moment in the book and turns it into a battle for the ages, a moment that resonates with viewers long after it is over. The intensity, the emotion, and the powerful performances of both Julie Walters and Helena Bonham Carter elevate this scene to something truly unforgettable. It is a moment where good triumphs over evil, where love conquers hate, and where a mother's love proves to be the most powerful force in the wizarding world. Number 21, the train fight, Draco's ruthless side. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, one of the most tense and critical moments occurs in the Hogwarts Express when Harry Potter finds himself face to face with Draco Malfoy. It is a scene that in the book feels significant, yet somewhat restrained, but in the film adaptation it turns into a cinematic masterpiece of tension, skillfully enhancing the original material. The difference between J.K. Rowling's words and the way the filmmakers interpret them is so striking that the scene, though important in both, achieves a far greater emotional punch on screen. In the book, the encounter between Harry and Draco is brief, but full of implications. Harry, having learned from his earlier experiences with Draco, is alert, listening intently to a conversation between Draco and his companions. The story tells us that Harry uses his invisibility cloak, which he has worn for some time, to hide in plain sight, hoping to overhear something revealing. He listens closely, knowing that this is his chance to understand Draco's growing involvement with dark magic. As he eavesdrops, however, things take a sudden turn, and the younger Malfoy finally catches him spying. Draco immediately casts a spell to bind Harry in place, and the chapter ends with Harry being left vulnerable and incapacitated. It is a disturbing moment suggesting the growing danger surrounding Draco and the dark path he is treading. However, the scene itself, while important, is almost clinical. It feels like a necessary progression in the plot, but it doesn't quite carry the weight that one might expect for such a crucial moment in the unfolding war against Voldemort. The filmmakers, however, seized the opportunity to infuse this moment with far more intensity, using a combination of cinematographic techniques that take the raw emotion of the moment to new heights. When Draco and Harry's confrontation is brought to life in the film, the change in atmosphere is palpable. The camera work alone transforms the nature of their encounter. The filmmakers used tight, almost claustrophobic shots to emphasize Harry's isolation and vulnerability. The train's narrow aisles, combined with the high-speed movement of the train itself, create a sense of being trapped both physically and emotionally. This subtle manipulation of space adds a layer of unease, making the scene feel more urgent, more dangerous. Moreover, the lighting in the film is used strategically to set the mood of the scene. As Harry hides under his invisibility cloak, the dim lighting of the train compartment accentuates the sinister undertones of Draco's actions. The shadows play over Draco's face, highlighting his transformation from a mere schoolyard bully to a young man tangled in something much darker. When Draco confronts Harry, his expression is far more intense and threatening than in the book. His eyes are cold, and there's a noticeable weight in his gaze, as if he is no longer the mischievous student from earlier books, but a young man on the precipice of full allegiance to the dark side. Tom Felton, who portrays Draco Malfoy, adds a new dimension to the character here, turning him from the typical antagonist into someone capable of deep cruelty. The moment Draco discovers Harry hiding under the cloak and decides to immobilize him is one of the most chilling scenes in the movie. In the book, Draco's spell is quick and almost a simple gesture to stop Harry from overhearing more of his plans. However, the filmmakers turn this moment into a visual feast of suspense and power. Draco doesn't just speak the spell. He raises his wand with a deliberate, calculated motion. There's no hesitation in his actions, no sign of the uncertainty or fear that often marks the Malfoy family's dealings with dark magic. The camera lingers on Draco's face, showing his growing confidence as he manipulates the situation, and the audience can sense the shift in power dynamics. He is no longer just a schoolboy trying to fit in with his father's ideals. He is a young man who has already made a choice that is, from this moment forward, difficult to reverse. The way the film shows Draco binding Harry with his spell is much more dramatic than in the book. In the movie, Draco doesn't just incapacitate Harry with a quick flick of his wrist. Instead, he uses his wand to paralyze Harry completely. Then, as Harry helplessly watches, he takes the invisibility cloak from him. The filmmakers make it clear that this moment is no longer about childish pranks or squabbles. It's about control and power. It's as though Draco, for the first time in the series, is fully embracing the darkness within him. The audience feels Harry's helplessness through the cinematography, the lighting, and the coldness of Draco's actions. The situation is more than a mere confrontation. It is an assault, a sign that Draco is willing to take whatever measures necessary to ensure his secrets are kept. The score during this scene enhances the tension and adds layers of dread. The haunting, minimalist music in the background builds slowly as the scene unfolds, each note adding weight to the increasingly dangerous atmosphere. The music doesn't overwhelm the scene, but serves as a subtle undercurrent, pulling the viewer deeper into the emotional turmoil of the moment. In the book, there's an unsettling silence as Harry is caught, but in the film, the music fills the space between words, amplifying the tension as Draco's actions begin to unfold. As Draco places the invisibility cloak back on Harry, covering him with it, the filmmakers create a visually stark moment where the audience is forced to confront the reality of what is happening. There's no grand battle or magical duel. Instead, there's a simple act of control, and yet it speaks volumes about Draco's internal shift. No longer is he just a student following in his father's footsteps. He is now a participant in the dangerous game of Voldemort's followers, and he is starting to enjoy the power that comes with it. Draco's actions carry a weight of finality, as if the audience is witnessing the end of a chapter in his life. The young Malfoy is no longer a mere puppet. He has taken his first steps toward becoming a master of darkness. The filmmakers also make a crucial change in how they depict Draco's emotional state. In the book, Draco's motivations and struggles are hinted at, but they are not as overt. Harry's constant surveillance of him gives the reader a sense that Draco is slowly being consumed by fear and doubt. However, in the film, these emotions are conveyed visually, and they add an extra layer of complexity to Draco's character. The audience can see his internal conflict written all over his face. There's a sense of sorrow mixed with fear in his eyes, as if he is realizing the full extent of what he has become involved in. But there is also determination. He is no longer the confused boy we once knew, but someone fully aware of the path he is walking. When Draco leaves Harry, having left him immobilized, the film doesn't just let the scene pass quietly. It lingers on Harry's face as he struggles with the aftermath. The camera holds on him for a moment longer than necessary, and the emotional weight of the scene settles heavily on the viewer. The importance of the moment, the turning of Draco Malfoy, the reveal of his loyalties, the deepening of the war, is clear. This is not just a confrontation between two schoolboys, it is a pivotal moment in the larger story, one that sets the stage for the conflict to come. In the book, Harry's struggle is internalized, and we're left with the image of him lying there, immobilized, the discomfort of the situation clear in his mind but not on his face. The filmmakers, however, capture the emotional toll this scene takes on Harry in a much more visceral way. When he finally regains his ability to move, the scene is not just a matter of physical release. It is a moment of realization that the war is no longer some distant event. It is something that has come to their doorstep, something they can no longer escape from. In conclusion, while the scene in The Half-Blood Prince book where Draco confronts Harry in the train is crucial to the narrative, it is in the film adaptation that the moment truly shines. Through a combination of clever cinematography, powerful lighting, Tom Felton's stellar performance, and the ominous score, the filmmakers elevate the scene from a brief exchange of spells to a turning point in the narrative. This moment becomes a chilling reminder that Draco Malfoy, once a mere bully, is now fully entangled in the dark forces of the wizarding world. It is a scene that serves as a powerful prelude to the war that is about to engulf them all. Number 22, Ron and Hermione's first kiss. The moment of Ron and Hermione's confession of love in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is one of the most poignant and anticipated scenes in the series. In the book, this emotional climax occurs amid the chaos of the Battle of Hogwarts in a secret room after the destruction of one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. It's a simple, yet deeply powerful moment. While the battle rages around them, their long-standing friendship and unspoken feelings bubble to the surface in a moment of raw honesty. However, it's the film's version of this scene that truly stands out, turning it into a cinematic triumph that far exceeds its written counterpart in terms of emotional depth. In J.K. Rowling's Deathly Hallows, Ron and Hermione's kiss feels almost incidental, a quiet resolution to years of mutual tension. The scene unfolds in a rush. After all the drama of the war, the destruction of the Horcrux is the climactic point where the characters experience a sense of release. Their kiss, simple and unadorned, marks a victory, not just over the physical danger around them, but over the internal battles they've fought for so long. It's not drawn out, it doesn't demand attention. It is, in a sense, a reward after the years of shared hardship, uncertainty, and unspoken affection. The moment is important, yet its execution is unassuming, reflecting how their love has grown gradually, behind the scenes often unnoticed. But when this scene is brought to life on the screen, it undergoes a transformation. In the film, the tension between Ron and Hermione builds throughout the narrative, each glance, each subtle interaction charged with unspoken feelings. The filmmakers seize this growing tension and use it to fuel an emotional release that is as powerful as it is satisfying. The moment of their kiss is no longer a quiet, simple acknowledgement of love. It becomes the emotional pinnacle of their shared journey. In the movie, this scene is placed at the heart of the Battle of Hogwarts, a storm of chaos surrounding them as the battle continues to rage. But when Ron and Hermione finally kiss, the entire world around them seems to fall silent. The music fades, the sounds of war retreat into the background, and the two characters are left standing alone in a bubble of intimacy and triumph. It's a stunning cinematic choice, highlighting the purity and significance of the moment. The intensity of the film's version of the kiss is built up meticulously, and the emotional payoff is heightened by the tension that has been simmering for so long. Throughout the final films, the audience can see Ron and Hermione's feelings for each other grow. There's the awkwardness, the teasing, the jealousy, the frustration, all of it culminating in this single, powerful kiss. The film does not shy away from the fact that while they have been best friends for years, something more has always existed between them. But it takes the emotional turmoil of the war, the dangers they face together, and the loss they have suffered to bring them to this moment. It's not just a kiss, it's a release of everything they have been holding back. What makes the film's version so much more emotionally charged is the way it contrasts with the previous scenes of conflict and despair. In the book, the battle for the wizarding world is certainly a backdrop to Ron and Hermione's kiss, but it doesn't dominate the moment. In the film, however, the battle is front and center. The kiss comes at a time when the stakes couldn't be higher. The war is not only a fight for survival, but a fight for their futures, and for a fleeting moment, it feels like love has finally won. This moment of peace and joy amidst the destruction of the battle is a visual metaphor for what they've fought for all along, a life together, away from the dangers that have defined their journey. The camera work in the film adds another layer of emotional weight to the scene. As Ron and Hermione's lips meet, the camera zooms in on their faces, capturing the emotion in their eyes, the uncertainty, the longing, the joy. It lingers on them, drawing the audience into their intimate moment. The kiss feels like a punctuation mark to their story, a relief after the endless tension, a sign that no matter what happens, they have each other. In the book, the moment is much more understated, almost like an afterthought. But in the film, it's an event, a declaration. It's a release, not just for Ron and Hermione, but for the audience who have witnessed their growth as a couple. This contrast between the film and the book highlights the different ways these two mediums handle emotional payoffs. The book's version of the kiss feels more realistic in some ways. It's more in tune with the everyday nature of relationships. It doesn't need to be grand or dramatic. It simply is. But the film takes that simplicity and amplifies it, turning it into a moment of pure, unadulterated emotion. It's a visual representation of everything that Ron and Hermione have been through together, their friendship, their struggles, their fears, and the culmination of that shared history in a single moment of tenderness. One of the most significant aspects of this scene in the film is its timing. The battle, which has consumed the characters' lives for so long, is still raging when the kiss happens. It's a reminder that love can bloom even in the most impossible of circumstances. Amidst the death and destruction, Ron and Hermione's love is a symbol of hope and survival. This makes the scene all the more impactful. They kiss not only because they love each other, but because they've fought for that love. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't something that could have happened at any other time. It had to come when they were ready, when they were both strong enough to face the consequences of their feelings and embrace them. In the book, the simplicity of the scene feels like a reward for the readers who have followed Ron and Hermione's relationship from the beginning. It's satisfying, but it doesn't linger. It's a quiet resolution, and while it's meaningful, it doesn't demand much. The film's version, on the other hand, demands attention. It makes the audience feel the weight of the moment, the significance of everything that led up to it. The kiss isn't just a kiss, it's the culmination of everything Ron and Hermione have been through together. It's a reward not just for the characters, but for the audience who have watched them navigate the rocky terrain of adolescence, friendship, and eventually love. Ultimately, the film's portrayal of the confession of love between Ron and Hermione transforms the scene into something much more than it was in the book. It's not just a quiet moment of resolution, it's a declaration of love amidst the chaos, a symbol of triumph after all the pain, fear, and uncertainty. The filmmakers take what was a simple, understated scene in the book and elevate it into a moment that resonates deeply with the audience. It's a moment that captures the essence of their relationship, how it has been forged through years of friendship, struggle, and loyalty. And in doing so, it offers the viewers a sense of closure, of hope, and of the enduring power of love in the face of adversity. Number 23, Voldemort's Resurrection Ritual. The scene of Voldemort's resurrection in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire stands as one of the most chilling moments in the entire series. While the book provides a chilling, albeit short, description, the film adaptation expanded this scene into something far more horrifying, transforming it into a multi-minute spectacle. It is one of the rare moments in the Harry Potter films where the adaptation takes what is already sinister and amplifies it to a level of pure terror. In the book, the ritual takes place in a graveyard. Harry, bound and unable to move, watches as Peter Pettigrew, known to the wizarding world as Wormtail, prepares an ancient and macabre ritual. The potion that will bring Voldemort back to life is a gruesome concoction that requires the blood of an innocent, the flesh of a servant, and the bones of the dead. The ritual itself is quick, described in a matter of paragraphs, but its impact is undeniable. Voldemort's return to power marks the beginning of the darkest era for the wizarding world. His rise is not only a personal triumph, but the first step in the war that will engulf the magical community, However, the film adapts this moment with such precision and attention to detail that it transforms the scene from a mere plot point into a terrifying experience. From the very start, the film captures the eerie atmosphere of the graveyard, where dark shadows loom and the air feels suffocating. The camera lingers on the sinister cauldron, where the potion for Voldemort's return is brewing. The bubbling liquid churns as if alive, foreshadowing the horror that is about to unfold. The visual cues in the film heighten the grotesque nature of the ritual. The bone of Voldemort's father, which is used to complete the resurrection, is starkly presented to the audience. The fact that Voldemort's own bloodline is being desecrated by his return is not something that the book fully emphasizes, but the film makes sure to show the depth of this violation. The bone is placed with a brutal and methodical gesture into the cauldron. The addition of Harry's blood adds to the grotesque tableau as he is bound to the ritual through his unwilling sacrifice. The blood from Harry's arm, drawn by Wormtail, mingles with the foul concoction in the cauldron, the moment marked with a disturbing finality. In the book, Voldemort's reawakening occurs in a matter of moments. The description of his new form, his rebirth as a dark, serpentine figure, is chilling but succinct. Yet the film's extended portrayal of this moment gives it a much darker, prolonged intensity. The transformation itself is no longer just a moment of rebirth, but an agonizing experience that is visually unsettling. The long, drawn-out process of Voldemort's resurrection is punctuated by grotesque details. His skeleton-like form beginning to take shape, the bloodshot eyes emerging, and the chilling realization that the very essence of his being is connected to dark magic, so ancient and twisted that it makes the viewer shudder. The pivotal moment when Voldemort's eyes finally open, his resurrection complete, is not only terrifying in itself, but serves as a clear warning to Harry and the audience that the real war is about to begin. Voldemort, now whole and more powerful than ever, turns to Harry with malice in his eyes. His face, newly formed, is a grotesque mockery of human beauty. The camera focuses on the intricate details of his new visage, the elongated nose, the slitted nostrils, the pale skin, emphasizing the monstrous transformation. The film manages to bring to life the words from the book in a way that is almost visceral. The audience, too, feels the terror of Voldemort's return, not just through the characters' reactions, but through the sheer horror of what is unfolding on the screen. The addition of sound design adds another layer of dread. The deep, resonating noise that accompanies Voldemort's resurrection is bone-chilling. The crackling of the cauldron and the grinding of the bone in the potion, coupled with the low, eerie hum of Voldemort's dark magic, makes the atmosphere even more oppressive. The silence that follows his resurrection is deafening. There's no cheer, no triumphant music. The tension hangs in the air as the gravity of the moment sets in. In the book, the focus is much more on Harry's internal reactions as he watches the ritual. His fear and confusion are palpable as he realizes the enormity of what is happening. But the film allows the audience to experience the horror through its visuals and sound. Harry's terror is reflected in the camera's close-ups on his pale, horrified face. The trembling of his hands, the rapid beat of his heart, are conveyed through intense cinematic techniques that capture the character's helplessness in this moment of sheer evil. One of the most chilling aspects of the film is the role of Peter Pettigrew. In the book, Wormtail's actions are cold and calculated, but in the film, the actor's portrayal of the character gives the scene an additional layer of creepiness. The audience is forced to watch as Wormtail, the pitiful servant of Voldemort, commits the unspeakable acts necessary for the ritual. He cuts off his own hand an act that is both a symbol of his subjugation to Voldemort and a grotesque physical manifestation of his loyalty. The moment when he places his severed hand into the cauldron is horrifying, and the audience is left with no doubt about the depth of his devotion to the Dark Lord. While the book portrays the resurrection as a dark and foreboding moment, it is the film that really brings the horror of Voldemort's return to life. The visual elements are expertly crafted to make the scene feel like something out of a nightmare. The graveyard setting, the unnatural lighting, the disturbing noises, and the chilling portrayal of Voldemort's rebirth all contribute to making this moment one of the most terrifying in the entire series. The moment when Voldemort fully emerges from the cauldron, a fully formed serpentine figure, marks a significant shift in the story. It's not just a moment of triumph for the Dark Lord, but a dark declaration of the war to come. Voldemort's first words, his threat to Harry, set the tone for the entire series of books that follow. It's no longer just a battle for power, it's a battle for survival. The film's rendition of the resurrection ritual in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire takes what was already a terrifying moment in the book and elevates it to new heights. Through its meticulous attention to detail, it captures the horror of Voldemort's return in a way that is both visually disturbing and emotionally powerful. By focusing on the gruesome aspects of the ritual, the film transforms this moment into a full-fledged horror scene, and in doing so, it succeeds in creating one of the most unforgettable and chilling moments in the entire Harry Potter series. Number 24, Harry and Dumbledore at King's Cross. The scene between Harry Potter and Dumbledore on the King's Cross platform, as depicted in the movie Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, stands as one of the most emotionally charged and visually striking moments of the entire series. This scene takes place after Harry is struck down by Voldemort's curse, and in that moment he finds himself in a sort of limbo, somewhere between life and death. It is here that Harry, having crossed into this ethereal realm, encounters the spirit of his former mentor, Albus Dumbledore. The dialogue that unfolds is deeply philosophical, reflecting the connection between student and teacher, the passing of the torch, and the culmination of Harry's journey. While the scene in the book is equally profound, it is in the film adaptation that this moment takes on an almost otherworldly and poignant significance. The beauty of this scene in the film lies in its simplicity and visual elegance. The set design plays an integral role in conveying the depth of the moment. The white, clean platform, bathed in a soft glow, reflects Harry's transition into a world that feels at once serene and dreamlike. There are no distractions here. The silence, the absence of time, and the purity of the setting suggest a space that exists outside the constraints of the physical world. The film capitalizes on this atmosphere, enhancing the emotional weight of the dialogue without relying on external noise or action. The scene is far removed from the chaos of battle, offering Harry a brief respite, but more importantly, it provides him with a space where he can face his final decision regarding his own fate. Harry's gaze scans the platform, and before him stands Dumbledore in a calm and almost reassuring posture. The interaction is a moment of reflection, but also a turning point for Harry. The last time Harry saw Dumbledore, the wise headmaster was alive, yet now, standing before him as a ghostly figure, Dumbledore exudes the same aura of wisdom and comfort that Harry always relied upon. In the book, the exchange between Harry and Dumbledore is filled with philosophical insights as Harry learns the truth about the Deathly Hallows, his destiny, and the nature of his connection with Voldemort. Yet it is the film's interpretation of these truths that enhances the emotional resonance of the moment. When Dumbledore speaks, his words are filled with warmth and compassion, but it is not only the content of his message that strikes Harry, it is the delivery. Dumbledore's line, "Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it," is perhaps one of the most memorable and uplifting moments of the entire series. In the book, the sentiment is similarly comforting, but in the movie, the way this line is delivered, Dumbledore's gaze, the lighting, the quietude surrounding them, turns it into a blessing. It is not simply advice, it is a reminder that Harry is never truly alone. Even in the darkest times, Hogwarts, the place that shaped him, will always be there to offer support. This line is not just about magical assistance, it speaks to the deeper connection between Harry and the institution, as well as the enduring bond between him and the people who have guided him. The film's presentation of this moment conveys Harry's emotional transformation. He walks away from the encounter with Dumbledore, not only knowing the truth about his own death, but also understanding the importance of his sacrifice. It is not simply a scene of revelation, but a moment of realization for Harry. In the book, Harry's reflections on death and his fate are more internalized. But in the movie, the visuals work in tandem with the dialogue to solidify Harry's newfound strength. When Dumbledore offers his reassurance, Harry's face softens. The determination that follows is palpable as he gains the courage to face Voldemort once more. The last interaction with Dumbledore becomes not just a lesson in morality, but also a farewell, one that cements their bond. What sets the movie apart from the book in this scene is its ability to distill a deep emotional moment into a purely cinematic experience. The pacing, the colors, and the absence of sound create a moment that transcends the words spoken. The visual purity of the platform reflects Harry's internal clarity. He is not weighed down by doubts or fear as he once was. The white platform, unmarked by time or conflict, symbolizes Harry's clarity of purpose as he prepares to confront Voldemort. It is as though the world itself is giving him the space to reconcile his inner turmoil and come to terms with the sacrifices he has made. In the book, Harry's thoughts after learning the truth are more centered on the intellectual understanding of his role in the larger battle against Voldemort. The conversation with Dumbledore is filled with a series of revelations that clarify his mission and the meaning of his death. Harry begins to understand the importance of the Elder Wand and his connection to Voldemort, which leads him to the conclusion that he must allow himself to be killed in order to defeat the Dark Lord once and for all. This is a pivotal moment in the text, as it marks the culmination of all of the lessons Harry has learned about courage, love, and selflessness. However, in the film, the emotional impact of the scene is amplified by the visual storytelling, the lingering shots of Harry's face, the subtle expressions of realization, and the soft illumination surrounding him create a powerful atmosphere of clarity and peace. The role of sound in the film version cannot be understated. The absence of background noise heightens the gravity of the scene, forcing the audience to focus entirely on the words exchanged between Harry and Dumbledore. The absence of sound not only signifies the otherworldly nature of the moment, but also helps to emphasize the finality of their conversation. There are no distractions here, only the pure essence of the relationship between teacher and student. It is a farewell, but also a moment of reassurance, a reassurance that Harry's sacrifice is not in vain. In the book, Dumbledore's presence, although comforting, does not carry the same weight of finality. It is a conversation filled with clarity, yes, but the medium of text offers Harry a space to contemplate his fate in a more abstract sense. In the film, the visual interpretation of Dumbledore's figure, both ethereal and yet profoundly comforting, creates a lasting emotional connection. As Harry approaches his final choice, it is Dumbledore's unwavering presence that gives him the strength to make that choice. The emotional conclusion of this scene is not simply about accepting his death, but about Harry realizing his place in the greater fight against evil. When Harry leaves the platform, he is no longer the boy who was unsure of his place in the world. He is no longer the boy who feared for his life. The film makes this transition abundantly clear, showing Harry walking away with renewed resolve. This is not merely the death of a character, it is the rebirth of Harry Potter as a hero who fully understands the gravity of his choices. The quietude of the scene mirrors Harry's own peace of mind as he walks toward his destiny, no longer burdened by doubts. While the book's dialogue is filled with vital information, the film captures the emotional weight of the conversation in a way that words alone cannot convey. Dumbledore's gentle tone, the soft lighting, and the quietude of the surroundings transform a philosophical conversation into a spiritual moment, where Harry's purpose is solidified. The film's rendering of this scene is a masterpiece of emotional storytelling, using visual and auditory cues to elevate the moment far beyond its narrative context in the book. In this final conversation, Harry is not just accepting his fate, he is preparing to embrace his destiny with unwavering courage. This scene, though small in its actual screen time, is one of the most powerful moments in the entire film series. It encapsulates Harry's journey, not through the battles he has fought, but through the internal struggle he has faced. It is a moment of acceptance, of peace, and of understanding. Through its delicate pacing and beautiful cinematography, the film transforms what was a crucial but less emotionally impactful scene in the book into one of the most memorable and moving moments of the series. The emotional farewell between Harry and Dumbledore is a fitting conclusion to the mentor-student relationship, leaving Harry with not only the strength to face Voldemort, but also with the wisdom to carry on the fight. Number 25, the epilogue, 19 years later on. Platform 934. The final scene in the Harry Potter films, depicting the departure of the next generation of Hogwarts students, is a moment that transcends mere closure. In J.K. Rowling's books, this scene appears almost as an afterthought, an obligatory wrap-up that, while emotional, feels a little too formal and restrained in comparison to the larger, more sweeping story of Harry's childhood and his battle against the forces of evil. But in the film adaptation, this same scene becomes something far more profound. It is not just the end of a story, but the culmination of an entire journey that spans nearly 2 decades of magic, friendship, and personal growth. In the book, the final scene of the epilogue features Harry, Ron, and Hermione sending their own children off to Hogwarts. It's a brief, almost businesslike encounter, one that doesn't linger too long on the emotions of the characters. It's a scene that showcases how life has gone on after the war, but it does so with a certain emotional detachment. The adults have moved forward, their lives are settled, and the next generation has been ushered into the world of magic. In Rowling's prose, the epilogue is filled with affection for the characters, but it's tinged with a sense of finality that doesn't allow for much more than a polite nod to the past. However, the film adaptation of the scene changes all that. The filmmakers, led by director David Yates, took this final moment and transformed it into something far more powerful. The decision to have the characters appear as adults with their children in tow is not just a visual callback to the audience's first memories of them, but a deeply emotional reunion for both the characters and the fans. The moment is imbued with nostalgia, but it also carries a sense of closure and hope for the future. The passage of time is palpable, but it is not something to mourn. Instead, it is something to celebrate. The setting itself amplifies the emotions of the scene. Platform 934, the place where everything began, is the backdrop for the character's final journey into the magical world. The train station is transformed into something more than just a physical space. It becomes a symbol of the passage of time. It's the place where Harry and his friends first stepped into a world beyond their understanding, and now, years later, it's where they stand as parents, ready to send their children on the same journey. The iconic platform with its familiar bricks and the glowing train in the distance holds the weight of the years gone by. The choice to include the music from the previous films is another brilliant touch that enhances the emotional impact of the scene. As the strains of John Williams's theme fill the air, it's as though the entire history of the series is being compressed into those final moments. The music is a gentle reminder of the long journey that the audience has taken with these characters. It's a theme that was first introduced when Harry boarded the Hogwarts Express as a child, and now, decades later, it plays again as his own son, Albus, steps onto that same train. The music becomes a time capsule, a sonic link between past and present, and it's impossible not to feel the emotional weight of it. Harry's gaze as he watches his son Albus is one of the most powerful moments in the film. In the book, we are told that Harry looks at Albus with love, but in the film this look is given so much more depth. It is the look of a man who has seen and experienced unimaginable horrors, but who has also found peace and love in the years that followed. The gaze is filled with everything Harry has learned over the years, the pain, the joy, the losses, and the triumphs. When he looks at his son, there's a sense of pride, but also a quiet understanding of the journey that lies ahead for Albus. Harry knows that his son will face his own challenges, but he also knows that the world they now live in is a world of hope, not despair. The most poignant moment in the scene, however, comes when Harry speaks about Severus Snape. In the book, Harry's admiration for Snape is evident, but it's more of an intellectual acknowledgement. He knows Snape was brave and sacrificed much, but the full emotional depth of this relationship is not explored in the same way it is in the film. In the movie, Harry's words are delivered with a quiet reverence. And it's clear that he is passing on not just the name of someone who mattered to him, but a piece of his heart. Severus, he says to Albus, is the name of one of the bravest men I ever knew. It's a moment that allows Harry to honor Snape's memory, but it also speaks to the overarching theme of redemption that runs throughout the series. Snape, who was once a figure of suspicion and hatred, is now a symbol of bravery and sacrifice. Harry's words carry the weight of the entire series, the idea that people can change, that love and loyalty can transcend even the most painful betrayals. Ron and Hermione, too, are given their moments in the film. While they do not have the same emotional depth in the epilogue as Harry, they are still part of this larger journey. Ron, with his trademark humour and warmth, stands beside Harry as they watch their children go off to Hogwarts. Hermione, ever the protective mother, is shown encouraging her children to be brave, but also reminding them of the lessons they've learned. In the film, their relationship feels more lived in, more real. The years that have passed since the Battle of Hogwarts have given them the chance to build a life together, and the scene at the station feels like a natural extension of their relationship. They are no longer the anxious teenagers who once feared they weren't enough. They are confident, loving parents, secure in their place in the world. The filmmakers also made a deliberate choice to include the children of the main characters in this final scene, allowing the next generation to take center stage. Albus Potter, James Potter II, and Lily Potter II, along with Ron and Hermione's children, are all part of this passing of the torch. It's a subtle but powerful reminder that the story of magic and the wizarding world continues even after the events of the previous books and films. The next generation will have their own adventures, face their own challenges, and just like their parents, grow up to become the heroes of their own stories. This continuity is essential for the world of Harry Potter. The world that J.K. Rowling created is one that doesn't end with the defeat of Voldemort. It's a world that will continue to evolve, just as the characters themselves have.